Harkuf, the forgotten explorer of ancient Africa. Long ago, along the winding river Nile, there was a land known as Kemet. Today we call it ancient Egypt. Back then, people lived in harmony with the rhythms of nature. They watched the stars, the floods, the wind. They listened. Among them was a man named Harkuf, a name now nearly forgotten. Yet he was one of the very first explorers ever recorded in history, a traveler, a bridge between cultures. Harkuf was a high-ranking official, serving the pharaoh, but more than his titles, he held something deeper within him, a longing to explore. His heart pulled him south, beyond the known world, into the mystery of Africa's interior. In his personal writings, Harkuf once wrote, "I went forth to the land of the south. The way was hard. I crossed mountains. I walked through deserts. But I wished to see the lands with my own eyes." His destination was the land of Yam, an ancient region that may have been in what we now call Sudan or Ethiopia. His journey wasn't just an expedition. It was a search for understanding, for connection. He wasn't alone. Alongside him were soldiers and beasts of burden, carrying supplies. The journey would take weeks, sometimes months. The sun burned by day, the stars watched by night. Nubian villages, traders, and dark-toned cave art of the region. At last, Harkuf reached the southern lands. The people were unlike those in Egypt. They wore different clothes, spoke in different tongues. Their foods, customs, and homes were all unfamiliar. But Harkuf did not come with war. He came with peace. With open hands and a quiet gaze, he wrote of their kindness, of how they welcomed him, of how he learned from them. He returned not just with goods, but with stories, stories that made Egypt richer, not in gold, but in wisdom. Hand-drawn illustrations of desert travel, camels, local communities. Harkuf's written account of his journey is the oldest known travel record in human history. Long before Marco Polo, long before Ibn Battuta, there was Harkuf. He wrote of a little dancing dwarf he brought back for the young pharaoh Pepi II. It might sound strange, but in it we see something tender, the desire to share wonder. Time passed, dynasties fell, kingdoms crumbled, and Harkuf's name faded into dust. But tonight, as you prepare for sleep, think of him, walking slowly through golden sands, guided only by the stars, listening to the wind, carrying not just trade goods, but understanding. He is one of many, one of the forgotten travelers of the ancient world. Every journey leaves a trace. Some are written in stone, others in memory, some in dreams. Xuanzang, the silent pilgrim to the west. In the heart of ancient China, during the early Tang dynasty, there lived a young man named Xuanzang. He was not a warrior, not a king, not even a famous scholar at first. He was a quiet monk with a deep question. What is the truth? In his time, Buddhism had already spread across Asia, but the scrolls were inconsistent, the teachings unclear. Xuanzang wanted answers, not just from books, but from the source. And so, without permission from the emperor, he left his homeland and set out on a dangerous journey across the Silk Road. He wanted to find the birthplace of Buddhism, far away in India. The journey was treacherous. He crossed the Taklamakan Desert, known as the Sea of Death, where sand swallowed entire travelers. He passed through kingdoms both friendly and hostile. Bandits roamed the roads. Storms came and went. But Xuanzang traveled not with swords, but with scrolls. Not with warriors, but with calm. And as he walked, he listened to the wind, to the prayers of strangers, to the silence of the earth. After years of travel, nearly 17 years in total, Xuanzang reached the great Indian University of Nalanda. There, he finally sat with the greatest Buddhist minds of the time. He studied, he asked, he copied hundreds of texts by hand, but he didn't stay. He returned home, the same way he came, on foot, with scrolls tied to his back and knowledge burning in his heart. Back in China, Xuanzang did not seek fame. He quietly began translating, working late into the night. His translations would shape Chinese Buddhism for centuries to come, and though emperors came to honor him, he remained humble, a traveler at heart. Today, many know his name from legends and stories, but the real Xuanzang, the soft-spoken monk who walked across deserts for wisdom, remains hidden in time. Tonight, as sleep draws near, picture him under the moonlight, crossing an empty plain, scrolls tucked close to his chest, and a question still lingering in his mind. What is the truth? He did not demand answers. He only walked toward them. In silence, we find the road. In stillness, we hear the journey. Gardar the Forgotten, the first to touch Iceland. In the 9th century, before maps knew the names of lands in the far north, there lived a Norseman named Gardar Svavarsson. He was not a raider, not a king. He was a quiet explorer from Sweden. His name, like a whisper in the wind, is barely remembered today. Gardar had heard strange tales that west of Norway, beyond storms and sea monsters, there was land, untouched, unknown, and so he set sail. The sea was not kind. Gardar's ship battled winds, fog, and bitter cold. Days stretched into weeks. Food ran low, but just when the men thought of turning back, they saw it, a distant coastline rising from the mist. It was Iceland. No one had ever circled the entire island before, but Gardar did. He sailed all around it, mapping its shores with only stars and memory to guide him. He spent the winter there, in a place now called Husavik. The winter was silent. Snow fell gently. Gardar built a house, the first known home in Iceland. He studied the land, watched the stars, and listened to the quiet. There were no wars here, no kingdoms to rule, just wind, earth, and time. When spring came, Gardar left. He never returned. Others came after him, more famous men like Ingolfur Arnarsson, now called Iceland's first settler. But Gardar was first. He gave the island its name, Gardar's Holmur, Gardar's Island. His name faded. His stories whispered only in the sagas. Tonight, imagine him there, alone beside a fire, his breath rising in the cold night air, his ship rocking quietly in the harbor. He didn't seek glory. He sought wonder, and he found it, on an island no one else had touched. Some explorers carved their names into stone, others into silence. Ida Pfeiffer, the woman who walked alone. In the year 1797, in Vienna, Austria, a little girl was born. Her name was Ida Pfeiffer. She was expected to grow up, marry well, and remain in the quiet company of teacups and embroidery. But Ida was different. From a young age, she read tales of deserts, mountains, and jungles. She dreamed of the world outside her window, and one day, she simply left. In her mid-40s, a time when women of her age were expected to stay home, Ida became a traveler, not a tourist, not a guest of embassies, but a true explorer, traveling with only a few coins, a journal, and fierce determination. She walked, rode, and sailed across Iceland, Brazil, Persia, India, China, and even into the Malagasy highlands. She went alone. No guards, no luxury, just curiosity. In Borneo, she stayed among headhunters. In South America, she navigated rivers where maps had yet to reach. She slept on dirt floors, crossed deserts on camelback, and traveled into volcanoes. And every time she returned, she wrote books. Her words reached thousands. She became one of the most read travel writers of the 19th century. But today, few remember her name. She was not given medals. She was not placed in school books. Why? Because she was a woman, a quiet one, and she didn't seek fame. But Ida kept walking and writing. The world was not ready for her, but she went anyway. Near the end of her life, in Madagascar, she was accused of espionage for simply taking notes. She was expelled and fell ill. When she returned to Vienna, she died not long after, forgotten by many, but not by us. She crossed continents when women couldn't cross streets alone. Tonight, remember Ida Pfeiffer, not for what she was told she couldn't do, but for what she did anyway. Ahmad ibn Fadlan, the voice from the desert sands. In the early 10th century, in the heart of the Abbasid Caliphate, lived a learned man named Ahmad ibn Fadlan. He was not a warrior or a king, but a scholar and emissary. In the year 921 AD, the Caliph sent him on a mission to travel north to lands unknown to many and to report on the peoples who lived there. Ibn Fadlan journeyed over thousands of miles across deserts and steppes through the vast lands of what we now call Russia. He traveled on foot, on camelback, and by boat, enduring heat, cold, and dangers from wild animals and hostile tribes. His destination was the Volga Bulgars, a Turkic people living along the Volga River. There, Ibn Fadlan met the Russes people, Vikings trading and settling far from their Scandinavian homelands. He described them in great detail in his famous travel diary, their customs, their rituals, and even their funerals. One of the most vivid parts of Ibn Fadlan's account is his description of a Viking chieftain's funeral. He watched as the Vikings prepared the body, placing weapons, horses, and treasures on the pyre. A slave girl volunteered to join her master in death. Her bravery shocked Ibn Fadlan, but it was a sign of deep loyalty and belief. Ibn Fadlan wrote not only about Vikings, but about many other peoples he encountered, their languages, laws, and ways of life. His writings are some of the earliest eyewitness accounts of early medieval Eurasian cultures. Tonight, imagine Ahmad ibn Fadlan resting after a long day's journey. He writes by candlelight, recording all he has seen. His words have survived over 1,000 years, telling stories forgotten by time.